大家晚安，欢迎来到飞扬国际。我们今天非常开心，跟各位邀请到来自芬兰的 Bettina 来为我们介绍有关芬兰的大小事，特别是一些有名的芬兰应用科技大学，让我们对芬兰这间特别的国家以及它所标榜的高品质的教育，能够多一些认识跟了解。
Thank you to Astar for hosting this event. Yes, this session is going to be about studying in Finland and the opportunities that we have here for international students. And before going into like the education part talking about the education system and the different universities, I wanted to just briefly also mention some of the highlights of why you should consider studying in Finland. And first of all, one of the reasons, of course, for you to come to study in Finland is that we have one of the best education systems in the world. And it doesn't really matter if you look at education from the early childhood, the primary schools, or actually up all the way to the higher education system, because the education system as a whole has been ranked as one of the best in the world. And we also have individual universities who are really well performing and also in international rankings, such as the Time Higher Education rankings, Shanghai rankings, etc. Since we have a really good performing education system, this is of course also then related to the companies and technologies and innovations that we have in Finland. And for being such a small country of only 5.5 million people, it is, of course, astonishing, if I may say so, that we are the third most innovative country in the world as well. And we have actually had a lot of interesting innovations coming from Finland throughout history. One such an example that a lot of us actually use on a daily basis is, for example, these heart monitors, all these like smart, like Apple watches and different smart technology watches that can track your heart rate, etc. throughout the day. They actually have these heart rate monitors inside of them that originally came to be from an invention in Finland. So I think it's quite interesting to think about that as well. And of course, if you come to Finland to study, you can of course then be part of the next big unicorn or innovation coming from Finland. And Finland has also performed, when you look at human capital, for example, we're also the fourth in the world looking at this, which is also a really high ranking for within this topic. And Finland being also very dependent on export in terms of, for example, business, we also rely heavily on knowing English and speaking English very well. And we're very happy to actually be the third in the rankings of non-native English speaking countries. So as an international student in Finland, you don't really need to worry about not being able to communicate with people because literally everyone will speak English in Finland. So it's really easy for students also to integrate to the Finnish society. And on top of that, I also wanted to highlight when it comes to education, of course, one of the important things today is, of course, to learn skills that will also be of importance in the future when our countries and the world develops further. And luckily, our population have one of the best so-called future skills, which means that we are kind of equipped with the best skills to also take on any future challenge that may be thrown at us. And one such example, for example, could be, of course, like different type of, not pandemics, but different sort of events that may be kind of thrown towards us in the future, who knows. So yeah, that's about, or some like highlights and distinctiveness of reasons to study in Finland. Then in addition to if we think about the education and innovations and society at large, Finland is also a really nice place to live in terms of general life quality. We of course have, being in the north, we have 4 beautiful seasons, which gives a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different sports depending on the season. So in winter, we have a lot of skiing activities, and in the summer, you can, of course, kayak and swim and all such sports. Finland is also a very equal country, and for example, at universities, there are very low levels of hierarchy. So you never have to worry about if they can address someone by their first name, or if they can go up and talk to a professor if they don't understand the topic. It's really informal and easy to communicate with people of different professional levels, for example. And of course, safety is a topic that is very important for a lot of people, but especially I think for parents. And in that sense, Finland is also a really good destination for studying, because Finland is one of the safest countries in the world. And that gives a good foundation for studies and such. We're also one of the most sustainable countries in the world. We have a lot of green nature, and our air quality is, of course, also really good. And we, of course, intend to keep it this way also for the next generations to come. And that's why sustainability as a topic is also something that you can see at the core of many different programs. And a lot of the programs in Finland are also multidisciplinary at university level, taking into consideration topics like sustainability, even in, for example, finance, or if in marketing or in engineering. No matter of the topic, you'll probably run into some sort of discussions about sustainability. We also like to say that Finland is well connected on top of the world. And this, of course, relates to the fact that we're located up there in the northern hemisphere, like in between Russia and Sweden and Norway. But even if we're like up in the north, we're still very well connected to the rest of the world, thanks to our strategic location between the west and the east. And for example, we do have a lot of connecting flights also to Asia on a daily basis and multiple times per day as well, in normal circumstances. Of course, nowadays it's a little bit less flights going, but in normal circumstances, there's plenty of connections to Asia as well. Then, since I'm here today to talk about studies in Finland, obviously one important aspect is to understand the education system. And that's why I wanted to include this as well. So basically, in Finland, obviously, the universities and universities of applied sciences give out bachelor degrees, and traditionally bachelor degrees in Finland vary between 3 to 4.5 years, depending on the program. And in Europe, we have this common credit system called the European or ECTS. It's just the easier abbreviation to use. And usually bachelor degrees are then between 180 and 240 European credits. And in Finland, the tuition fees for bachelor degrees vary quite a lot, depending on the university. But usually they're somewhere between 6,000 to 11,000 euros per year. And then we also, of course, have master degrees, which again follows the traditional structure of being between 1 to 2 years long. And again, if we think about or talk about the European credits, this means that it's between 60 to 120 credits in total. And being an advanced degree, the tuition fees are, of course, also a little bit higher. So usually between 10 to 12,000, which is still quite a competitive price, I would say, compared to many other destinations in the world. And generally intakes to universities in Finland are in August, September. So our fall intake is the largest intake in Finland, but a lot of universities are also starting to open up for January intakes so that students could start twice per year. But good to keep in mind that the fall intake, with studies starting in September, is usually the biggest one and the main one still. And as you will see when you get more familiar with different higher education institutions in Finland, is that we have a dual higher education system, meaning that we have two different types of higher education institutions. One is, of course, the traditional universities that offer bachelor, masters, PhDs, and so forth. The bachelor degrees at universities are always 180 credits, and master degrees are then 2 years and 120 credits. The universities or studies at universities are often more theoretical, and all the teaching that is done is based on a very academic and research-oriented approach. You will find more these sort of traditional lectures with a lot of students, and basically you have professors giving, theoretical classes on various different topics. Generally, so far, they tend to offer more English degree programs on master level, but also undergraduate degrees are becoming more and more available. So that's like the research universities, or universities as we know them. And just to give you a few examples of these is, for example, LUT University, Hanken School of Economics, then of course University of Helsinki, and so forth. They all belong to these universities that we have in Finland. Then another type of higher education institution in Finland is the so-called Universities of Applied Sciences, and the abbreviation that you'll often run into is this UAS. And the bachelor degrees in the applied science universities are usually a little bit longer. They're between 3.5 to 4.5 years, depending on if you're studying business, engineering, or sea captain or similar. And then the master degrees are usually between 1 to 1.5 years. So a little bit or slightly shorter than at the other traditional universities. And universities of applied science, they are traditionally, the studies are more practical. They're more industry aligned, and they do a lot of projects together with industry and with companies, because their main purpose of existence is basically to teach skills that are needed in the labor force, basically. So that's why they're also very practical, and you'll have compulsory internships, for example, as part of your degree, and so forth. And it's, of course, a really good opportunity, especially for international students, to get, for example, already work experience during their degree. So far, the applied science universities in Finland tends to offer more English degree programs on bachelor level. And what is quite special for these universities of applied sciences and good to note is that in order to get admission to a master program, students need to have 2 years of work experience in advance from a related field. So you cannot enroll directly into a master degree at an applied science university, but instead you need to have some work experience before enrolling into a master degree at the applied science universities. And this may, of course, seem a little bit confusing, perhaps in the beginning, but there's more information available, of course, online that you can research about the different options that you have. And both, of course, are equally good. And it's just that the kind of focus and the way of teaching is a little bit different at these two different universities. Then we go into a little bit more about another topic. Living as a student in Finland is, of course, working, another important aspect, and often we do get a lot of questions about this as well. Generally, international students can work part-time on a student residence permit while studying towards a degree in Finland. The maximum hours that you can work per week is 25 hours during the academic semester, so basically when you have classes, but then during holiday periods, the students can actually work full-time. And generally, the holiday periods in Finland is between June and August. And then again, that's the summer holiday. And then again, between December and January for the Christmas or winter break there. And a lot of international students, of course, look for part-time jobs and find part-time jobs as well. And usually, especially in the beginning, they are in different sort of entry service jobs. It can be anything from delivering mail, working as an office cleaning lady, or restaurants, cafeterias, etc. So it really varies, but usually it's some kind of service job, which I must say also national students have. So like I have many of my friends who have also worked in cafeterias, in restaurants as a waitress during their studies just to get some pocket money. It's very, very common. And then of course students can also do internships, and often it's actually part of the degrees nowadays that you are, if not required, if not compulsory, you're very much encouraged to do so at least. And these can of course be either paid or unpaid, depending on the job, the company, the industry, etc. So there are both available. And of course, if you're getting paid, then you also of course need to remember to pay taxes, but this will obviously come quite natural to you once you are in Finland and involved in the working life. And another important aspect of studying abroad is of course the cost and how much money you should kind of put aside for your studies abroad. And generally foreigners think that Finland is a very expensive country to live in, and to some extent that might be true, of course. But when we look at the cost of studies in Finland for international students, it is, if not lower, at least up to par with some other European destinations. But usually, as you can see, even from this table here, the cost of education or university studies in Finland is lower than in many other European and non-European countries. And one reason to this is, of course, that the universities in Finland are publicly funded. So they're all public universities, and therefore they also get some subsidies from the government directly. And here you can see that we have basically taken the average yearly fee for some countries that we have compared Finland towards. And you can see here that Finland comes out as the most affordable option among these countries often, both when it comes to the tuition fee and the average living cost. Of course, the living cost is a topic that is quite difficult to compare in the sense that it really depends on personal preferences. I mean, you can live off a very tight budget, but you can also, of course, spend a lot on your living in case you prefer to do that. But this is to just give you an idea in what type of amounts we are, or what type of amounts we're talking about in Finland. And this is another type of way of showing you the living cost. This goes, of course, a little bit more into detail. Here you can see, for example, the average cost for a studio apartment, room in a shared apartment. And of course, the monthly rent is something that varies quite a lot depending on the location of the university, and of course, then also your own preferences as a student. The most affordable option is of course to live in a shared apartment where you have your own bedroom that you don't share, but then you might, for example, share kitchen or living room, etc. And another common option is, of course, also to just live by yourself in a studio, but this is, of course, a little bit more expensive often. And especially international students generally tend to like to share apartments because, of course, it gives you also some, people to hang out with when you're not in school. And then, for example, student lunch. One thing that a lot is much more affordable for students than for regular working life people in Finland. The universities all have, or to my knowledge extent, at least all of them have these student cafeterias where they give or they offer lunches for a very affordable price for their students. So it's important, of course, that every student has access to like warm meals so that they can study successfully as well. But in general, we have calculated the average monthly spending, again, depending on preferences, are between 600 to 900 euros per month. And what then happens once you have graduated? This is, of course, another very often asked question, like with the opportunities after graduation in Finland. And first of all, students can apply for an extension of their student residence permit for 1 year while they look for work, or if they want to establish their own company. Generally, Finland has quite a big demand for skilled professionals. This is, of course, bigger in certain areas than in others, but we are on a general level, we're an aging population. So also the population is therefore decreasing. So we need more international talents to come to Finland as well. And there are, as I said, some areas that have larger skill shortages than others. One of this is, for example, the IT sector. So people who are as good at, information technology, have studied software engineering, data sciences, computer science. Generally, there are jobs available for these sort of experts. And for example, the technology industries in Finland already estimated last year that this year in 2021, there would be roughly 53,000 new employees within this ICT sector needed in Finland. So it's a very, very big field in Finland and offers also therefore huge opportunities for skilled professionals. Another very important area is also healthcare, so nursing. It's a very important and a field where we do see some skill shortages in, and we'll also see it in the future. So this is, for example, another field that offers plenty of job opportunities in Finland for students. But in addition to this, there are plenty of other also. This is just some that I came to my mind and that I like to highlight here today. And then we will, this is, of course, when we talk about like graduation and companies and what type of companies we have in Finland, I would say that in general, we have had a lot of very successful engineering technology companies. And some of these logos here that you'll see, for example, Google or Rolls-Royce, they are obviously not from Finland, but they have some sort of business activities in Finland. So for example, Rolls-Royce, they have a research and development center in Finland. Google have some offices in Finland, as well as some server storage, I think. And then we have, of course, other type of multinational companies as well. And when it comes to Finnish successful companies, some of the most famous ones for perhaps end consumers are, for example, these games that have started or came from Finland. Angry Birds and Clash of Clans are the most famous ones. But in general, the gaming community and game development is a very big industry in Finland. And we've been very good at attracting these gaming companies to Finland as well. So that's a very, very big field. But other than that, we of course also have MySQL and Linux, which is very, very big and global companies today. So there's a little bit of everything. A lot of these companies, of course, work within the field of engineering, technology, and so forth. Well, that was actually all the things I had to say about like Finland in general. I do have some slides about one of our partner universities that I could go into a little bit more in detail. But if you have any questions on Finland in general, you can always, of course, contact Gary for more information. And I think at this point I could go on to highlight and introduce one of our partner universities, Hamk University of Applied Sciences. So just a second. I need to change my PowerPoint presentation here. And let's go. And if, of course, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask and interrupt me at any time. Okay, if no questions at this point, I will continue by introducing one of our partner universities that we work with in Finland. This university is called Hamk University of Applied Sciences, and as the name already suggests, it's a applied science university. And first of all, I wanted to show you where this University of Applied Sciences is located. So as you can see here on this map of Finland, all these white dots here is the different campuses that belongs to Hamk University of Applied Sciences. And as you can see, they're all located in this like south part of Finland, between our three major cities of Helsinki, our capital, Turku, and Tampere. This is often like referred to as a triangle. And basically all these campuses here, the white dots, are part of Hamk University of Applied Sciences. And this is just to give you an idea of what, or a frame of reference as where this university is located. But this is the kind of key figures of Hamk. So they are a mid-sized University of Applied Sciences in Finland with altogether 7,600 students. They have roughly at this point 640 foreign degree students spread across their different bachelor's degrees in English, and of course hopefully we will have more Taiwanese students also in the future for coming to Hamk for studies. Hamk is a very international university. They have over 100 international partners in the world, which of course gives great opportunities for students who want to go for student exchange or do double degrees or any other sort of international collaboration. They also have 4 research units and actually 1 professional teacher education. So quite a versatile University of Applied Sciences in Finland. Hamk was actually established already in 1840, and it's therefore quite of a long, or a University of Applied Science university with a long history actually. But thanks to their long history, of course, they have also had time to become very competitive. And nowadays they, of course, are a very modern university with internationally recognized teaching quality. And they, pardon. They, of course, in their teaching, they're focusing a lot on teaching skills for employability, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And what this means is, of course, that studies are very practical oriented, and they do a lot of projects together with companies to make sure that they are industry aligned in what they teach to their students. And therefore they also, of course, have very strong contacts to the companies in their region and the local companies there. And they also, being a mid-sized university, they can also offer a very individual approach to their students who come to this university, and they're very focused on putting the student always in the center of teaching, so that everybody kind of understands what's going on and all the teaching concepts. And it's a very, very nice student community, I have to say, to be part of. And I would definitely recommend everybody to get familiar more with Hamk. As I already mentioned, they have over 100 partner institutions around the world, which gives good opportunities for student exchange, but also double degrees that you can do in cooperation with their partner institutions abroad. And they actually, as you saw from the first slide, they have a lot of foreign degree students, and they actually come from over 70 different countries. And let's see. Yes, and I wanted to also show you the degrees that they have offered in English for bachelor degree, or students who are looking for bachelor degrees. So they have 4 different faculties, if you want to call them that. So they have programs in engineering, in business, design, and agriculture. So quite a versatile university. In engineering, they offer a bachelor's degree in construction engineering, electrical and automation engineering, information and communication technology in bioeconomy, and then mechanical engineering and production technology. In business, they offer international business and computer applications. So this computer application is kind of a combination of business and IT studies. So a student gets the best of both worlds. They also have a design program called Smart Sustainable Design. And lastly, but not least, a program in Smart Organic Farming. So very, very interesting programs and a lot of different opportunities for international students, no matter if you're interested in engineering, business, or arts, or even then agriculture. We often also get, of course, questions about student accommodation and how to find student accommodation and how the process looks like. And basically, Hamk is very proactive in this, and they have a lot of staff and tutors to help and assist the students to find and kind of get settled with the accommodation process. And basically, their end goal is, of course, to make sure that everybody has an accommodation already when arriving to Finland. And about living costs as I already showed you, Hamk has quite many different campuses. So this is, of course, to give you some idea of the living cost, but again, it always depends on your own preferences. But generally, the rents are usually around 350 euros. And this is then in a shared apartment with 1 to 2 students. And I think this, again, to our experience, it's one of the most common and most preferred ways of living, especially among international students. The school provides a daily warm lunch for a subsidized price for their students. And altogether, this means that you would spend roughly 70 euros if you ate at school on a daily basis. And then food and beverages is roughly 300 euros per month. This again, of course, depends quite a lot on your own lifestyle, but all in all, you can see that it's roughly 600, 700, 800 euros that will end up on once, like, rounding up all the different costs in a month. And in addition to these costs, there are, of course, these so-called initial costs when studying or going to study abroad. One part of that is, of course, the residence permit process and the fee for submitting the residence permit application. In addition to this, international students also need to have a health insurance before arriving to Finland, or while they are also staying in Finland. Of course, on top of this, there also comes flight tickets, costs, deposits for your apartment. Maybe you need to buy something for your little room or for your apartment and so forth. So it's good to just think about all the different costs related to going and studying abroad, so that it doesn't come as a surprise to you when you arrive. Then who can apply? Basically, anyone who has the right qualification that provides eligibility for higher education studies in the awarding country can apply to Hamk. And what they basically require from their students is the copy of the degree certificate, or a temporary certificate if you haven't graduated from high school yet, and then a transcript of records or a statement provided by the school. And then you, of course, need also to have a copy of your passport. And good to notice that if you're still enrolled, for example, in high school, you must have, of course, completed high school by the time of starting the studies in Finland. Hamk has quite a lot of different admission methods. So depending on what qualifications the students have, you can apply in various different modes. So they, for example, have online exam and interview is one way. If you have taken the SATs, you can also apply with those. If you are enrolled in an international baccalaureate program, so an IB program, you can also apply with those qualifications. And then they also have a couple of country specific like ways of applying if you come from either Vietnam, India, or mainland China at this point. But I will not go too much into details about these qualifications. If you need help with them or if you have questions, there's a lot of information, of course, online, but also Gary at Astar will be very happy to help you further with your questions about admission. Basically, I still wanted to just mention the tuition fees here, of course, since it's one of the most frequently asked questions as well. So basically for bachelor degree starting in September 2021, the tuition fee will be 9,700 euros. And Hamk also offers scholarships for international students, and they are based on the Finnish language skills. And therefore it means that, of course, you can most often apply for them after you have started your studies. And they are then based on the international qualification levels that you will sit a language exam for. And then if you pass these levels, you're eligible for a scholarship. But yeah, that's all from this side today. If you have questions about Hamk or Finland in general, we're super happy to answer any of your questions. And if you come up with questions later on, of course, you're welcome to get in touch with Astar, and they will get you further in your process. But other than that, I thank you for today. And if you have any questions now, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.